early winter of 1911, John H. Barron of the Cornell class of 1906 accepted a job offer to become the first Farm Bureau agent in New York. Working in Broome County, he was employed to conduct demonstrations and educate farmers individually and in groups about the best methods, crops, livestock, labor, and tools. When Barron began work on March 20, 1911, he was assigned a horse and buggy and set out to engage the agricultural community, sharing with farmers the latest scientific developments from Cornell. The hiring of John Barron marks the beginning of county-based extension work, and it is the 100th anniversary of this event which Cornell Cooperative Extension has chosen as its centennial marker. It's important to know, however, that even before his appointment, significant outreach efforts were already underway in parts of New York under the leadership of Martha Van Rensselaer, who had been hired by Agriculture Dean Liberty Hyde Bailey in 1900 to lead a new intellectual pursuit, applying science to improve the quality of life in the home. Van Rensselaer named the new field domestic science, which she described as a vital element in the education of women. What became clear within a short time was that a broad network of people and a variety of methods and media, not to mention transportation options, would be needed to meet the growing demand for the kind of education that the burgeoning farm and home bureaus offered. Thus were the beginnings of the one great idea that is Cornell Cooperative Extension, the combination of deep knowledge of local communities and the application of science-based solutions to current problems and concerns has been, and continues to be, the hallmark of all Cornell Cooperative Extension programs. In 2011, we started a centennial project to record, in their own voices, the reflections of Extension practitioners past and present on the one great idea that is Cornell Cooperative Extension.
This one great idea of cooperative extension is very impressive and inspiring as an educator, because it shows the foresight that people had about how are we going to involve the populace of this country in higher education. Everyone can be involved in higher education through this idea. And of course the establishment of the land-grant university system, which was the first big step, and the political and intelligent courage it took to establish that, and for whatever reasons it was established, which there are many. And then to say, okay, now how are we going to create a way for everybody to be involved? And so the cooperative extension system was born out of that idea.
John Barron, the first extension agent, was essentially a community development. He was hired by the Chamber of Commerce and the railroad to help the industry at the time, which was very heavily reliant on agriculture. So we've always been in the business of working with communities on solving problems. And in fact, one of the Liberty Hyde Bailey's advice to his students was, when they graduate, get on a train, head to wherever they're heading, and when they get off, something like this. To notice what's going on, and when you find a problem, work with people to solve it.
Cooperative Extension is part of the land-grant college system. That we had the people's colleges were developed with the Morrill Act that started the land-grant colleges. Then came the Hatch Act, which set up the experiment stations for these colleges. Then came the Smith-Lever Act that established extension. And the job of extension was to take the research from the land-grant colleges and deliver it to the people of the state.
One would have had some, not just your program committee, but others involved. You do surveys, hold discussion groups, find out where most of the people you were going to be programming with, what their basic needs were. And did we have the resources at the college? There is, a lot of our programs were really based on faculty resources at the college. And faculty, sometimes, what I mean is non-administrative assignments, faculty would often travel for a program.
That kind of symbiotic relationship and willingness to work be open to stakeholders, I think is hopefully a hallmark of extension. I've talked to some faculty who focus more on teaching and are wary of having industry folks or stakeholders meddle too much, and well, they're not going to tell me what to teach. But I think if the audience is the stakeholders you're getting input from, then it's a logical way to communicate and benefit from that relationship.
But I think one of the things that I see in Extension, I don't see in a lot of other groups, is that people generally listen and care about their clients. We don't rush in and say, we're from the government, we're here to help you. We listen first and then act. And I think that's really what makes Extension special. And I see that exhibited in my colleagues. I think it's something that's part of our culture. We don't really teach it. It's just who we're all about. And to me, that's what makes Cooperative Extension really special.
How to put that information that is generated and stored here, how do you put that into people that might not be able to take it in its present form, and to put it into farmerese, I call it, something for them to understand. And then at the same time, that has to be the other part of that two-way line has to be the farmer's needs being addressed back and put into, from their words, translated back into words that resonate with the people here on campus.
For me, the one great idea I wanted to talk about was this interplay of emerging needs and ideas and questions and synthesizing of information, translating of research results, and generation of new research demands and needs that are then addressed, and communication back to not only the stakeholders, but also, I think of it as up, but to policymakers and folks who need to know that in Washington.
That legal connection between the county extension associations and Cornell University was far more important than probably will ever be measured, because people now just assume that's the way it was. Well, that isn't the way it was. And there were times when folks began to feel rather desperate whether the county extension associations would be able to continue to have major resources at Cornell. But that really, creating the Cornell Cooperative Extension system was a major achievement.
Every county, the power of every county is that it's a little bit unique, and they all put a slightly different spin on the way they do their jobs, but they all have connections at the local and regional level that we couldn't begin to hope or couldn't even try to recreate if we had to. So the county system and the system as a whole is a really exciting system, and that makes it fun.
All of our stakeholders in Cooperative Extension have a major role, because what we don't want to be is what I call information giver-outers. But we want to have dialogue. We want to be conversing with people, and it should be a two-way interaction at all times. And so in some roles, I go out and I am providing a lot of information and answers, but I'm also listening very carefully to how that individual or that community wants to use what I gave them, because they may have a totally different approach. But the other thing as a scientist is that I find when I converse with those farmers and with other people, they are often bringing new issues for me to study. They're saying to me, I saw this, that, or the other. Do you think that it could be a true relationship, or do you think that this is what's happening?
Cooperative Extension is an education network which is tied into the land-grant university within your state. And every state has a land-grant university, and you have the opportunity to learn from those land-grant universities via Cooperative Extension. So here's your chance to connect with research-based information. In a world full of information, it's sometimes hard to figure out what information is valid or where information comes from. And so I think I would tell somebody, it's your resource for information that has been validated in the scientific world.
It was truly a privilege to be able to spend a career in an organization that impacted every dimension of individuals, communities and to really make meaningful input.
It's really striking to me how the stories that Extension educators and faculty members tell of their work and experience today are in many ways the same kind of story that I find in the work of Liberty Hyde Bailey and Martha Van Rensselaer and Anna Botsford Comstock and some of the early men and women who pioneered in building Extension. And that is that the stories are really grounded in this kind of passionate respect for ordinary folks, a deep concern about their lives and about their communities, and sort of a conviction that if we pull folks together and have a conversation about what are the problems people are facing and what do we think we could do about them, that we'll be able to do great things.